Now, before I get into the specifics, I want to share with you a quote that I took from time.com this week, and it reads, "Information isn't powerful by itself. What's powerful are the connections and conversations that turn information into usable knowledge." This really strikes to the core of what lead management is all about. It's about providing you the information necessary to navigate around the obstacles that get in the way of your company and profitable conversion rates. If I asked you right now what your speed to contact was, or potentially more importantly, what your conversion rates were across your campaign, would you be able to answer that question? If you couldn't, then you do not have access to significant information you need to really streamline and improve your conversion rates. So it really comes down to problem solving. How can you solve a problem if you don't have the necessary information to solve that problem? My answer is you can't. But we'll come back to that in a few short minutes so you can see how lead management systems provide that information. Here's 3 eye-opening statistics that you should definitely be well aware of, and that may surprise you. The first one, 95% of leads are wasted. So if basically what this is saying is, depending on what types of leads you're purchasing and what industry you're in, if you're converting 5%, you're doing pretty good. You definitely in mortgage would be considered above average. But what happens to all the other 95% that you're not converting? What are you doing to cultivate or capitalize on that valuable investment? I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a company or spoken with companies that have a stack of paper leads set aside collecting dust that they couldn't convert in the first day, 2 days, or whatnot, and they do nothing else to really try and monetize on that opportunity. That's a serious investment that you're leaving on the table. And so this is, again, why lead management is so important, so that you have a platform in place that is able to properly cultivate and nurture leads that don't convert right away. The second point, qualifying a lead is 43% process and 57% lead quality. Now this may come as a surprise to you, and some of you may wonder how we have this information. Lead quality is clearly very important, but what this really says is process is a lot more important than a lot of people think. And the reason we have this information is because we have a lot of companies that we've accumulated over the last 4 or 5 years, and we've been able to analyze the success of these companies. So we can easily take 2 companies that have the same type of profile, the same number of people in their sales force, they're selling the same product, they're buying the same types of leads, and we can compare the variance in their conversion rates. And what we find is the company that has the higher conversion rates, we've kind of taken a deeper dive into what their sales process looks like, and it's clear that companies that have the higher conversion rates have a superior sales process in place that really allows them to achieve that level of conversion. And the last point is something that Joey touched on, and is probably one of the most significant statistics of all, especially if you're buying internet leads. And that is contacting a lead within 5 minutes increases the likelihood of that lead converting by 22 times. And that really shouldn't come as too much of a surprise to you. And the reason being is because consumers go online, they submit their information, and when they submit that information, the race is on. And it's all about the company that can get on the phone with that consumer first. If you can establish that connection first, you're probably going to have a much better chance. You will have a much better chance at converting that lead. So what is a lead management system? A lead management system takes everything you're doing and puts it in one place. What it does is it brings structure to chaos, if you will. You have leads flying in from multiple sources. So chances are you're getting leads from multiple campaigns. You're buying internet leads. Maybe you're doing direct mail. You're generating call-ins. Leads are coming in from many different places. A good lead management system, one that Leads360 has developed, will automatically capture that information and all the data that you've spent valuable dollars to collect and populate that in one system. And then it will store all the activity around that lead in that same system and provide the tools necessary to ensure that every single lead that enters your universe follows a sales process that maximizes your conversions. And so one question that I would ask is, what tools and or means do you have in place right now to ensure your sales process is being followed? If you're currently using paper or Outlook or Excel, how can you ensure that your process is being followed, that every single lead that you have generated is going through that process to maximize the propensity of that lead to close. Without a system, really hard to do. So why is the lead management system so important? Well, there's really two factors that cannot be ignored, and that is speed and consistency. And our little picture here, I think, provides a good illustration of the parallel I'm trying to make here, and that is speed cannot be ignored. Having the speed of a hare while having the consistency of a turtle. You may laugh, but I think it really does establish that relationship, because speed is crucial, especially considering the fact that most leads aren't exclusive, and you're almost always competing. So the second you receive a lead, it's critical, as I mentioned before, that you're on the phone talking to that lead as quickly as possible. But then also that you're automating time-sensitive functions, such as distribution. How are you currently distributing leads? When leads come into your inbox, are you printing them out, walking over to a loan officer or a debt settlement or insurance agent's desk and handing them the lead and hoping that they call it right away? And if you are, how long is that taking you? Because if it's taking you more than a minute for every single lead, you're significantly hurting the chances of your success for any given lead. What about emails and autoresponders or automatic reminders? This is where a platform, a lead management platform, is so critical, because it can automate those time-sensitive functions to ensure that every single lead comes in is managed in such a time-sensitive manner. And then consistency. This relates back to sales process. How confident are you in your sales process? If you have a sales process that is really fueling your conversions, how do you ensure that sales process is consistent? Meaning that every single salesperson you have in place is managing the lead in a way that you believe will maximize your conversions. Without a system, it's very, very hard, if not impossible, to do, such as establishing touch points at different stages. So you have a sales cycle, and there's different stages in that sales cycle. And what's important is you are making those critical touch points, such as a lead comes in, it's brand new. You can't get it on the phone. If you can't get it on the phone the first time, calling multiple times over within a 24-hour period. What happens when the 72nd hour passes? How are you emailing? How are you nurturing those leads? And that's where you can set up automating rules with a system to ensure those touch points are established. And the last bit is how are you meeting the expectations of your consumers? I think this is a very significant point, because as consumers, we have expectations. You're a consumer that you're pursuing. They go online, they fill out a form. Chances are they want information quickly, and don't want to jump through hoops of fire to get it. Or maybe they don't even want to be contacted, they want to be contacted by email. So having a system in place will allow you to have the heads up. So if a lead comes in the system, an automatic email goes out to the consumer right away, introducing your company, your name to that consumer, trying to figure out just a little bit more information so you can tailor your sales approach around that information, and managing the lead accordingly. So why are companies that use lead management systems outperforming companies that don't? First of all, they focus on what they do best, and that's selling. Not printing leads. They're not dealing with paper trails. They're focusing on selling. Why? Because they leave it to their lead management system to automate the time-sensitive and critical functions in their sales process. Functions such as automating distribution, automating every single email that goes out of the system, and all the autoresponders associated with that. I'll tell you one very cool thing that Leads360 has recently implemented is an email open notification. So that any lead, any email that goes out of our system, if a consumer opens up that email and reads that email, the sales individual that has that lead will be notified that the lead opened the email. So what better time to call the lead after they've opened that up? Again, going back to information and how we give you the information to really give you an advantage.